Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back. My name's Blaine, and you guys all know me from a lot of my YouTube videos that I've done in the past, and this is one that I haven't done in a while, and I apologize, but my life has been a little on the crazy side. My dad, who was the person who got me into collecting coins in the first place, passed away in August, and so it's been a very rough couple of months for me. And I haven't really felt much like doing many videos, but I've decided I think I need to get back into the swing of things. So I got a call from a gentleman not that long ago who said that he had about 150 to 200 rolls of old original bank wrapped rolls of coins. And when you get calls like this, sometimes you wonder whether or not they're true or telling the truth, or whether they really know what a bank wrapped roll is, for that matter. But I decided to pay this gentleman a visit, and was astounded by what I saw. These rolls were all true original bank wrapped rolls that had been absolutely meticulously cared for a very long time. If you hear my birds in the background, again, I apologize for that, but I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see what it is that I have here before I actually do it. I'm adjusting some of my light here so that you guys can actually get a good view of this. But what lies in front of you are roughly 16 rolls out of the 200. I have more of them coming, but he's just like anybody else. He's a true collector and not sure he wants to get rid of all of them just yet. However, he has agreed to sell a very large amount of them to me, and so I'm buying them in batches at his pace, not mine. I would buy the whole group if I had the go-ahead to do so from him. But I want to make sure that I point out a couple of things about these rolls. First of all, they were all stored for decades, and I mean by decades, I'm talking that some of these rolls he purchased back in the 60s and stored them in nickel tubes. And how I know that this guy is telling the truth is the nickel tubes that he was using to store them in are these, and they're coin tubes that were octagon-shaped coin tubes that were actually produced back in the 60s and in some cases late 50s for some of these tubes. And so it doesn't really get much more authentic than this. Now, granted, someone can go out and buy these tubes and put the paper wrap tubes in there and say, hey, I've had these stored since whenever. But the interesting part about it is he had a large quantity of these tubes, and he had more than just cent tubes that he had. So I saw this guy's collection, and it's pretty impressive. He was a collector of original bank wrapped rolls of cents, dimes, quarters, nickels. He had pretty much everything. Obviously, I'm only interested in the cents. But every single roll that I have in front of me here, with the exception of a few, is a true original bank wrapped roll. Now this, I point that out only for people who haven't seen these videos in the past. This is a wrapped roll. There are people out there that would call this bank wrapped, but it is not a bank wrapped roll. It is a roll of coins that is wrapped. It is old time wrapped, and it is wrapped very well. It is machine wrapped and not wrapped personally or by hand. I bring that up only because everybody has seen this little tool that I have here that you can basically wrap your own coins and make tubes or rolls look like they're wrapped. But if you haven't seen me use this video in a video, please go back to my YouTube channel and watch a couple of my other videos to see how that's done. This is a very, very tightly wrapped roll of coins. Again, I'm going to point out a couple of things that you should look for wrapped rolls. One, you should not be able to pinch the roll to the point at which you can see the edges of the coin. Those rolls, what you're looking for in a roll is to make sure that it is tightly wrapped, and I mean very, very tightly wrapped. You should be looking for a seam that runs like this on the roll. Or one that runs like this on a roll. You can see the V shape on this one here, if you get a chance to see that. I'll explain this one to you in a minute. I'm going to set that off to the side. Majority of the rest of the rolls here are actually just regular machine wrapped rolls. They have this seam that runs diagonally around them, as you can see. There are also tubes out there that don't have this diagonal wrap to them. And those are rolls that are not machine wrapped. Those are rolls that have a straight seam that runs down the side of the roll. And so the interesting part about those rolls are those are tubes that you can purchase yourself at Shopko, Walmart, Target, all sorts of different places, even online on eBay, as a matter of fact, and stuff the coins in. And actually wrap them yourself. Here's a good example of that right here. This is one of those, and this is actually a fake wrapped roll that I have laying around so that I can explain it to people. But this says Bank of America on it, but you'll notice that the seam for this wrapper actually runs straight all the way along the side of this roll. It does not actually run at a diagonal across it. So this is what they call a pre-formed, pre-glued roll. And I have basically stuffed it with a roll of coins to make it look old and used this fancy little device on the end of the roll. And lo and behold, you can actually make a roll of coins look real and authentic. Both of these wrapped ends were not wrapped with anything other than, or crimped with anything other than this little tool that I have in my hand here. So get familiar with that. But again, like I was saying, these are all original wrapped. Now, this is not a bank wrapped roll. However, this roll is also the same concept, also not a bank wrapped roll, but it is an old wrapped roll. In order to be a true original bank wrapped roll, it must have a bank's name on it. That is what you call a bank wrapped roll. And there is a definite difference between them. So make sure you are familiar with that. Other interesting thing about a lot of these is to learn a little bit about the history of where they came from, where the person was that I bought these from. At one point in time, they currently live in the area here, but they lived out in Ohio. And so a large majority of these rolls are stamped with banks from the East Coast. And so it's interesting to get a chance to see where a lot of these came from. This one happens to be U.S. Treasury, Washington, D.C. There's a couple of other ones in here that here's a Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, Indiana National Bank of Indianapolis. So they're all pretty much East Coast and Midwest banks right around the area where this person was from. Here's one here from Florida, which is kind of an interesting one. So I want you guys to see this. I'm going to go through and open a couple of these rolls in another video. I'm trying to keep all these videos to about 10 minutes, but that's a quick educational background on where some of these rolls came from. So I will open a couple in another video. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you guys will tune in for some other ones, and my birds won't be quite so noisy. Have a good night. Thanks.